Keeping track of elapsed time is probably one of the most useful complications you can have. Whether it may be tracking hours at a time or as little as 30 seconds to time the perfect double shot of a delicate and juicy espresso to start your morning. Time is what makes things that much better. Today we're going to be talking all about the Seiko Chronograph, nicknamed the Seitona, and how it can possibly be one of the best chronograph offerings from Seiko in a long time, since the original Speedtimers from the late 60s. But you might want to stick around to the end, as there's one little thing about the watch that may be a turn off for a lot of us. I know this watch has been out for quite some time, but I finally had the chance to get my hands on one from a friendly viewer of the channel, my uncle. Thanks, Uncle. To be honest, I've seen this watch circulate all over social media and my YouTube feed quite a bit, but never really had the urge to dig deeper on this watch. Maybe because I knew it was a solar chronograph offering from Seiko. Not that there's anything wrong with solar technology, I actually own quite a few solar watches myself. It's just that sometimes when a watch houses a solar movement, especially a complicated watch like a chronograph, they tend to be a little chunky sometimes. It wasn't until I read into the sizing specs that it came in a sweet Goldilocks size of 39mm. And in hand, I was pleasantly surprised with its proportions, from the skin diverse case design to its pushers, and it's super comfortable to wear and operate once it's on the wrist. I think this is where the watch really shines. After spending some time with this watch, this is probably one of the most comfortable chronographs I've lived with. The compact pushers and large crown makes it really easy to press and set the time. Now, the pusher feedback isn't the most satisfying, but there is a definite click when you push it in. There is a nice little function to tell your power reserve on the watch by pressing the bottom pusher. It's a pretty convenient feature, especially if you haven't worn this watch out. One thing I noticed on the dial of the watch is the handset. It has this Fotina-like handset, which I don't really know if I'm a fan of, but it adds a bit of vintage character to this otherwise Speedtimer homage. Speaking of homages, this watch is nicknamed the Seitona, which I get it, I can understand since it looks a lot like a ceramic Panda Daytona from Rolex, but really any Panda dial with a black bezel will look relatively the same in terms of the color scheme. But this Seiko is definitely its own unique design. The bezel looks almost like ceramic, and to the naked eye it might just fool you, but it's actually a treated steel bezel with polished and brushed accents that follows the same details of the case, which is polished on the sides and a satin concentric brushing on the top, which I think really complements the watch really well given its sporty nature. It's a Speedtimer. This model, along with another release, which is also a stunning chronograph, but a mechanical dual subdial watch, brings back the legendary Speedtimer name from Seiko, which happens to be one of my favorite collections from them. I do have a vintage Speedtimer, and I have always admired the history and achievements that Seiko has done with the Speedtimer line. And if any of you want to see a proper review of my vintage Speedtimer, let me know in the comments below. Now, my absolute favorite part about this watch, and I know I'm going to repeat myself, the proportions. Photos of the watch online don't really show off how proportional it is. If you ever have the chance to try this on, I highly encourage you to. It might just push you over the edge on whether or not you want to own it. Also, because of its panda color scheme and wearability, it takes straps really well. If you're like me who likes to change up the look of your watch based on your outfit, or you're just not a fan of the bracelet, which honestly isn't that bad as other people are saying it is, having a versatile watch like the Speedtimer can really freshen up the look of your watch and hopefully keep you off from buying another watch whenever you get bored of the look. Now, even though there are a lot of good things going on with this watch, there are actually a couple things that put me off. One is how the solar cells are exposed a bit on the subdials. Yes, I get that light has to pass through the dial somehow to charge the watch, but unlike Citizen with their EcoDrive watches, they do a much better job at hiding their cells. Whereas the ones on a few solar Seikos I've came across, they can usually easily be seen. This is really nitpicking at the watch, but for the price point, I expect a little bit more care in that department. And that's something you should really consider is the value you're getting. I mean, it's almost $700. I think that is a pretty steep price point for a solar powered chronograph. As you all know, for $700, there is a massive selections of watches you can choose from, some of which phase into the lower tier luxury territory. I mean, it's a great watch with its proportions and has all the right looks, but to me, the value you're getting out of it isn't really worth the price tag. However, if you're really interested in this watch and don't mind paying the price, I highly recommend giving your local Seiko dealer a visit and see if they can give you a discount. I've always had some luck getting to know some people at the Seiko stores, and they always go out of their way just to give a more fair price on their watches. So try give it a shot. In the end, if you like something and you think it's worth spending your hard-earned money on, it's a good watch, and no one else's opinion really matters. To me, this is one of Seiko's best looking chronographs in a long time. And like I said before, I've always been a big fan of the Speedtimer line, And with these first passes of the modern Speedtimer, I think Seiko might be on the right path, reviving this once legendary line. Hey everyone, Editor Chris here. Of course, as I'm editing this video, Seiko releases a few more watches into the Speedtimer line, which is really cool because, like I said, the Speedtimer line is slowly being reborn and even paying homage to some of their older Speedtimer references, like their new black and red bezel option, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not sure about the size, maybe we'll do another video about that, but until we have it in hand, we can only tell till then. So let's get back into the video. Thanks for making it this far in the video. I really hope you all enjoyed it and hopefully gave you a little bit more insight on this Speedtimer. So what are your thoughts on the Speedtimer? Are you a fan? If you already own one of these Speedtimers, what do you like most about the watch? Let me know in the comments below. Also, for those of you who have been following my channel closely, you may have noticed a change in scenery here. After living in multiple hotels for a few months, I'm finally happy to say that this space will be the new home for Clicky Bezel. So please be sure to stay tuned because I have a lot planned for the future of Clicky Bezel. For those of you just joining for the first time, please consider subscribing, especially if you made it this far in the video. So thanks again, and we'll see you all in the next one. All right, I gotta get this back to my uncle.